Hey folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for some more Legacy action. Tonight's stream is brought to you by my friend over at Hanging Moon Recording, Kia. And we are going to be playing Red-Green Lands. So last time around, when we played lands, we were playing Oko lands. And this is a very different build. So outside of the Field of the Dead and a couple of sideboard cards, this looks much more like the lands deck of years past. So, if you were watching lands back when like SCG Legacy Opens were a thing on Sunday, this is more akin to what you might have been used to seeing. So we have the Punishing Fire Grove of the Burn Willows engine to improve our matchup versus fair decks. Otherwise, like, we just have a good density of lands and a bit more removal than normal, as well as the mana bond, which is often not making it into the Oko versions. Let's zoom in. Because mana bond makes you discard your hand, and if you have like these nice Okos in it, you don't really want to discard those, right? So mana bond is not usually making it into the deck if you are playing with an Oko version. So we have some new sideboard cards in both meanings of the words. Have some weird background text on the screen. Site not found. Dr. Bill will... Site not found. That's interesting. What's that? Is this an extra copy of chat? I don't know what the... OBS must have just updated. Okay. Why am I seeing this? You haven't deployed an applet yet. You have deployed an empty directory. There's a custom domain. Delete. Remove. Bits sound extension. Well, we'll just move that off screen for now. Okay. Sorry, I just heard some noise. Rebel Chief, thank you very much for following, as well as your donation, by the way. Very much appreciated. Okay, so let me field that question now. So, why is Mana Bond better than the last exploration? So, Mana Bond allows you to do some of the most degenerate combo turns that you can. So, for example, you can play turn 1 Mana Bond, dump your hand, and actually produce a Merit Lodge on turn 1. So, like, that is something that is possible. The other thing Mana Bond allows you to do is put every single card that you get from a Life from the Loam into play. So Exploration is +1 land drop per turn. Life from the Loam plus Mana Bond is just like, hey, every land that I have, it is going into play. There are some differences between these cards in terms of how they are going to function. So the cycling lands is one big one. Mana Bond is not put as many lands as you want into play, it's all of them. So every once in a while that can mean if you want to use the Mana Bond trigger, you put something into play that you otherwise might want to hold, such as like a Bojuka Bog, a Tabernacle, a Tranquil Thicket, or something like that. So that's a great question. So why doesn't Turbo Depths play Mana Bond? Consider the number of non-land cards that Turbo Depths plays. Fine and Andy, thank you very much for your second month of support. Very much appreciated. And thank you for the daily D&T donations, by the way. I'm going to shoot you an email at some point. I have a question about one of those. But that's for a later time. Excuse me. Anyway, consider the number of non-land cards that Turbo Base plays on there. So Turbo Depths or any of the other Depths versions often play things like Discard, Bobs, Elvish Reclaimers, Lotus Petals, and stuff like that that don't actually give you any value off of the mana bond. So you get to dump extra lands in play, but your cards like Crop Rotation, Sylvan Scrying, things of that nature, into the north, those actually don't really get you anywhere via a mana bond. So that's why you don't see that in Turbo Depths. As far as our sideboard goes, we have 2 newish cards in here in terms of age, and that's M20's Elvish Reclaimer and what is this? Modern Horizons? ? Force of Vigor. Those are just excellent additions to the archetype and help you deal with certain things that are problematic, such as Blood Moon and Back to Basics. And then we have a new card in that it's not traditionally played in lands in the form of Mindbreak Trap. Just because dealing with Breach can be problematic in a shell like this that like doesn't have counter spells, discard a high density of permanents. So Mindbreak Trap and Spheres are there to try to like give you your wins against Breach. With that being said, let's just go ahead and hop into a league, see how we do. I am so sad that I am going out of town for the Showcase Challenge, because I have grinded enough points. Where are they? I've grinded enough points while playing all of these meme decks to actually play in one now. But I can't do this one. Womp womp. I'll find another way to dump my points. Legacy League, lands, join. Hope you all are doing well. I'm working on some big things that are hopefully going to be coming out next week. The first I can talk about, the second I can't yet. So the first is, I did 5-0'd. Of course it wasn't a meme. The first thing I'm working on is a D&D article. I know what you're saying. Phil, you actually write articles? I didn't know you did that. You haven't done that in so long. Yep. I had a little bit of free time at the end of the day at work, and I stayed for like over an hour after work to just like try to actually sit down and crank out some thoughts that I have about D&D, because they're complicated right now. Alright, we're playing against Lewis, so we're potentially playing against Delver, or maybe playing against Eldrazi or something like that. Regardless, I'm keeping this hand. What I do with this hand is kind of interesting. Because I could just, like, Windswept Heath, fetch, Crop Rot stage before my opponent has access to, like, Daze or anything like that. But that'd be kind of weird. We're going to get rid of one of the ports. And then I think I'm just going to play my Heath and pass. Winged Hussar, thank you very much for following. I don't remember what a Winged Hussar is. I feel like Court Hussar was that, like, blue-white forecast card from a while back. But I don't know what Winged Hussar is. I wonder if Lewis is, like, playing blue-red Delver here. Seems kind of like it. I don't know that I want to just play one of these crop rotations yet. Yeah, he could be on Breach. It wouldn't be very on-brand for Lewis, though. No, I'm not playing in the prelim. This is just a regular old league. It is looking kind of breachy, but it also looks like it could be just, like, blue-red Delver. Prismatic Vista would be weird, though. Alright. So opponent has Underworld Breach. That is going to resolve. Alright, Lewis, how well do you know this deck? Are you going to beat this crop rotation that I very clearly have? That's a yes if you flashback the LED first. Lewis knows how this works. So if I try to bog my opponent here, my opponent will cast Brain Freeze in response, right? This is not great. This is going to get weird. So we're going to sacrifice this port. Turbojet Megachrist, thank you very much for your continued support, friend. That is going to hit our sub goal of the day. Alright. So this targets my opponent. Oh wait, no, these are targeting me. Wait, hold on. Where's my arrow? Is this funny thing my arrow? Yes, I guess that funny thing is my arrow. So I guess I'm still okay, at least at this time. That Orum's chant is interesting, but my opponent doesn't have mana for it. My opponent can brainstorm now, though. Okay, so that Pierce is okay. Can't pay Dark Depths. Yeah, my opponent's line was great. So we will 100% dredge life from the loam, and hey, wouldn't you know it, we'll get back Thespian Stage and a couple other lands. 1, 2. And Lewis has conceded. We're super lucky to get game 1. We should be unfavored in game 1. I was told this was red-green lands. I was lied to. There were no red or green things in play. Alright, so what do we have? Mindbreak Trap is good. Sphere is good. We can consider going Force of Vigor levels of deep to beat the Breach, but that's kind of awkward. I'm going to see how much I have to take out. Like, Choke, Reclaimer. Actually, I'll probably play the Reclaimers just because, like, it's another way to get Bog. But, like, Choke, Force of Vigor, Pyroblast are all things, like, that I could technically play. I 100% don't like Maze of Ith. I will probably keep the Tabernacle in. These decks often sideboard into Monastery Mentor, and just having something that deals with the Mentor is probably pretty important. Because I'd kind of like to cut some of this, like, Punishing Fire Vortex side of the equation. So I can just leave myself with a tutorable answer to Mentor, rather than a whole bunch of things that, like, otherwise basically do nothing. My opponent's going to have 3 Mentors coming in from the sideboard. My Mana Bond gets less good for post-sideboard games. The Caracas is pretty cuttable. If I want to bring in one more card. Or not board out something. I can also consider not playing Library, but the selection's pretty good. Blast Zone on 2 technically hits Breach. It's an out. So I've cut 1 mana source so far. I don't know how much deeper I actually want to go in that regard. This is a turn 1 Sphere of Resistance, so I'll be keeping this hand. Ooh. Now I have options. Hey friend, I hope you are well. We have a relatively large time zone difference, so I know we often don't catch each other live. Oh, Lewis, are you going to turn 1 me? No. Very smart playing out the petals, though. So, first question is, does this Mox get Spell Pierced? It does not. I think I don't want Rishadan Port from this hand. And let's Sphere. Note, in case you are not aware of how the math works, Sphere of Resistance does not stop an LED-based combo. It will usually stop a Lotus Petal-based combo, but you can just beat it with LED. This is interesting. I can play Verdant Catacombs, gamble for life from the loam, wasteland my opponent. Oh, no, I have the Sphere to think about. So I can wasteland my opponent and either gamble or crop rotation. I am going to start by wastelanding my opponent, though. Alright, no action from my opponent. Leaving up the crop rotation means I probably can't die. But if I'm being honest, I kind of just want to gamble. Actually, the life from the loam isn't even good yet, so I will hold up crop rot. I'm a liar. I need one more mana-producing land before my... before my life from the loam has the potential to take over the game. I think since I don't have the third land drop yet, I am not supposed to just gamble from life from the loam there. Because by not casting anything, that's slightly awkward. So I tap Mox, cast Mox, discard Dark Depths, still have crop rotation up. Then I have better lines the following turn. The other line there is just play Dark Depths and crop rotation it away aggressively. I don't have Ancient Tomb in this list. Let me just confirm that real quick. I do not. Okay. Now I either gamble or library. The issue with gambling is that I might discard the crop rotation. I can't set up Sylvan with library. Or I can't set up Sylvan Library and crop rotation due to my own Sphere of Resistance. So I could just bog them, eat the graveyard that's there, and then gamble for life from the loam. I can do all of that this turn. But if I don't... God, it's so awkward with this crop rotation. Alright. I'm just going to pass. Because if I don't do anything, I can just put mana into Blast Zone, X equals 2, for the Breach. How do you find lands from a MTGO experience? Largely positive. The thing I actually dislike about it most is when I'm on the other side of the table from lands. And dealing with the Tabernacle trigger. Okay. This is pretty great. Now I just pass again. So now we have the win on board if our opponent doesn't have the ability to combo off this turn. But I don't particularly find that lands is a slow deck. Force pitching a Fluster. That's okay. We lose a land, but they have 2 cards, and the sphere is problematic. Now we're probably just in either Gamble or Library and just like jam and not hold off for the combo next turn. If I'm being honest, the Library might be better than the Gamble. Like, the Gamble gets Life from the Loam, but the Library could get anything, even Life from the Loam. So I'm pretty comfortable tapping out here. Not 100% comfortable, obviously. Oh, that's very good. They milled a Breach, though. And a Serenity. Pretty happy about both of those things. Less happy about that. I believe this is still going to be a deterministic win through Sphere. I'm going to wait just a minute to see whether or not my opponent boarded in Mentors, because that influences my sideboarding. But that's okay. I needed to, quote, tap out for either Library or Gamble to advance my own plan here. And I was comfortable doing that because like I had nothing else going on and my opponent had 2 cards left. So, like, I am dead. I'm just waiting to see whether my opponent has Mentors. And once I have that information, I'm done. Okay, there's the Mentors, there's the Reclamation, so I know exactly what version they're playing. No, I had a bit of a clunker of a hand, right? Like, I didn't have the ability to cast my stuff while also doing other things, and that was my biggest issue. Like, I had the Sphere effect to stop my opponent, but I didn't have anything to be doing with my turns. So I wasted a lot of mana effectively. I can consider more copies of Force of Vigor over a couple of my utility lands. Just so I can slightly more safely tap out. So, like, I guess tapping out for the Library is a little rough in this matchup, like we saw there. So let's play Force of Vigors over that. It's a little questionable because I lose some of the ability to dig for my hate. I don't know that I can throw this back because I get to go Mox Diamond Grove, discard a port, Reclaimer, gamble 4 life from the loam. So I think I have to keep this. I have Bog open from early on, and I can probably assemble a relatively quick combo. I can also just gamble for a combo piece and then grab the other with Reclaimer. So discard this, play this, Reclaimer, and we're not going to get cute. I am just going to gamble for loam. There's other options here. And we discarded it directly to graveyard. That's cool. Pretty pleased with that. Dredge away. So we're probably not growing this Elvish Reclaimer to a big boy immediately. It's 2 to activate this, so the next question I need to ask is, am I holding up Elvish Reclaimer this turn, or am I casting Loam? I can't effectively port my opponent. I might just die if I cast this Loam. Whereas I can just take a natural draw next turn. And then Loam while holding up Reclaimer. I'm going to go ahead and do that. That's interesting. Now I have a Wasteland target. Don't wear tear my Mox, Lewis. Well, that's mighty fine. Let's blow that up. So now I am either holding up Bog, or I'm holding up Get, Stupid, Thespian Stage, create a technical monster, maybe win. Continuing to waste is also a plan. That's true, but my opponent has like 7 cards. I don't think I want to prolong this game. I'm kind of hoping to have a turn 5 kill and hope that's fast enough. There's a lot of things that make it not. No, we are holding up Bojuka Bog. my interaction. Alright, I think I need to say, Lewis, you have to win next turn. Yeah, I don't gain the ability to Elvish Reclaimer for Wasteland and Wasteland immediately. Alright, Lewis, do you have the freeze as well? You do have the freeze as well. That's unfortunate. GG's. Well, we're not well equipped to fight against this deck, right? So, like, if we look at the main deck interaction, we have, like, basically one card that interacts with my opponent's deck. Yeah. That is correct. So if my opponent has LED, Brain Freeze, Breach, plus, what, like 5 other cards in their hand, like, they're good to go. Yeah, so, like, my opponent would have beaten, like, a lot of what we had. They had any number of things there that could have been very good. So, like, as far as, like, our main deck stuff, I have Crop Rotation, 4 Bog, and Bog. My entire rest of my deck doesn't do anything against them. So we were super lucky to steal game 1 with Bog. And then in the sideboard, we gain, like, 5 decently high impact cards, 2 medium impact cards, and a couple other low impact cards. This is not a deck that is geared to beat Breach. Like, even in playing a couple extra cards for it, like, the matchup is still going to be horrible. Gamble for Loam? I'm in. Let's do it. I disagree. I think that Breach is very good at beating Sphere and Thalia. So I don't think luck has anything to do with that. All right. So we have Life from the Loam against the Wasteland deck. That's a good place to be. We also have Molten Vortex versus the Small Creature deck. So we are off to a great start. I have Maze of Ith for a large knight. Oh man, my opponent doesn't know this, but if... It's okay. It's kind of okay. Freaking Dryad Militant is very good against Life from the Loam. And I don't have the second red source to play Molten Vortex and nuke it. So where am I going? I've got this gamble. So I can get kinda cute. But there's this crop rotation, right? And my opponent has the Wasteland. So I'm gonna get tricksy here. I'm gonna play Maze of Ith and pass the turn, making it look like I'm just going to, like, maze this Dryad Militant, but actually hoping that I bait them into Wastelanding. This plan's a frickin' disaster, though, if they play Thalia. Yeah. So the Breach deck can combo off through Thalia or Sphere if they have LED, and it's like those cards didn't even matter. This is a lot of mana. Green Sun for X equals 3. That is going to resolve. Could be Tireless Tracker. Will probably just be like a Knight, though. Yeah, it's just a Knight. No attack. Okay, am I going to crop rotation for another red source? Because then I can Vortex, discard a land, get rid of Dryad Militant, get double Wastelanded, but have Life from the Loam available. It's a weird spot. I think this Dryad Militant moved me from being in like a crushingly good position to being in a like I'm almost going to auto lose position, which is super unfortunate. Ooh! Oh, that's nice. And makes my turn more interesting. Because I could just play Tabernacle. No, I really want to get that Dryad Militant off the table. Man, Knight's so good, though. Cradle's problematic. Alright. So I think I'm going to go Vortex. Activate this. Target the Dryad Militant. Pay the red. Discard a Rishadan-Port. Play the Tabernacle. So doing this in this way potentially means that my opponent will get Knight. Sorry, will use Knight to get Gaia's Cradle rather than double Wasteland me. Or if they do Wasteland me, they might Wasteland Tabernacle plus one of my 2 red lands so that I can still cast this Life from the Loam that's in my hand. The Sylvan Library is going to bury me. Oh, good God. No. 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 Honestly, I expected to get Wastelanded one more time. I'm not going to lie. I was expecting just to get attacked for 1, then Wastelanded. This Tabernacle's looking awful good over here. Hope you all are enjoying this this nice old school castle. Was that like some Legends art? Tree pays for itself. Just good math. Yep. Yeah. All right. Feels like I'm having to work really hard. I also don't really think I have much for this matchup. Like, Reclaimer as some Wasteland protection and extra tutoring is good. But, like, all of this stuff is absolutely no. And most Maverick builds are moving away from Stoneforge, so the Force of Vigors primarily hits Sylvan Library, which is kind of whatever. So I don't know that I get the luxury of sideboarding much. The only thing that Force of Vigor does that is not, like, around in a game 1 scenario is it plays around some graveyard hate. So every once in a while you see Maverick builds that are playing Leylines. And if my opponent is playing one of those builds, the Force of Vigor has added utility. But I don't know that it is correct to play around that. Because I can still beat it via Field of the Dead. I guess they wasteland more than, like, Taxes does, so I can't rely on that quite as much. So basically every time I cut the mana bond for post-sideboard games when I'm playing this deck. And then I think I could pretty safely just trim 1 mana-producing land. I don't think I'm going to play around the Leyline. Ye old combo hand. Keep. I hope my opponent fetches a basic forest. So I can just, like, stage and immediately copy it for safety. Yes, thank you. A Knight this turn is problematic because it means that my opponent can have Caracas active by the time I would get around to an attack. Gilded Goose is fine. So I can play Mox, discard stage, play Depths, hold up a crop rotation with Dark Depths activation. So the question here actually is, do I just make this now? Because while my Thespian stage is protected from Wasteland, my Dark Depths wouldn't be. So I can just go Dark Depths, copy. Alright. I can go Dark Depths, copy, Mox Diamond, discard stage, crop rotation away the Ghost Quarter into Tabernacle to tie up my opponent's mana. I kind of feel like that's saucy. accordingly, I will do it. We're going to keep the one that does not have counters on it. Tabernacle. Feels kind of like a jerk move. Makes it harder for my opponent to stay alive while also progressing their board. So, like, the Gilded Goose is something that could have blocked the Merit Lodge. But if they keep the Gilded Goose alive, as well as, like, the Noble Hierarch, things get awkward for them. Yeah, so Tabernacle does not destroy our Merit Lodge token. I don't have to pay mana for that. I'm definitely worried, because if they let the Goose go, it seems to be indicative that they just have Swords to Plowshares. Yeah. 40 life and I have Sylvan Library, you say? Let's battle. How could this possibly go wrong? Don't Pride Mage me. Don't Rex Age me. Don't be a splash build and Abrupt Decay me. F. I need to draw through those. So, like, those cards aren't good. I think you know that. But I also just need to dig deeper in my deck. This is brutal. My library! Although, to be honest, I expected to lose the library last turn when they cast that for X equals 2. So now I have 28 life and a crop rotation, as well as a gamble. I guess I'm just gambling 4 life from the loam and starting the process again. If my opponent has another green sun, this is a beating, because a green sun for X equals 2, and then start eating my lands before I get the chance to bring them back. A wasteland on this is also pretty bad. And that's a Swiftish clock. Alright. I can loam for Stage Depth's Tabernacle. My opponent doesn't have a flyer yet, but my opponent can get Maze of Ith. And I do have the Ghost Quarter. So the question is, do I work on trying to control their board a bit? Or do I work on progressing towards a win? The knight is a hell of a problem. One way or another, I'm absolutely casting this. I can get back the Tabernacle, hope they don't have access to a Cradle for some unknown reason. Get, like, Tabernacle, hope it taps my opponent down. I'll still take 7 or so damage. Maybe that's not even good enough. I'm in a bad spot. Maybe I can't get Tabernacle and hope to reasonably win. I could get, like, Stage, Depths, Ghost Quarter. Let's try this route. And play out the thing that is least... No, I need to... Everything's bad. Everything's bad. Like, I got double sinkholed by a green sun. Then I lost my ability to leverage my 40 life that I had due to the second green sun. And the mom makes this difficult to remove to actually get my stuff back. The knight is also making it so that I can't realistically combo off. So I don't know what my path to victory is from here. My opponent's also getting to filter draws with Sylvan Library, and that is not helping. Alright, so now I lose access to half of my combo. Oh, surprising. Well, I wish these worked. You know, I think, if I'm being honest, I think we're done here. I think that I'm not overcoming this. This combination of cards is very powerful. We're gonna move on to the next match and value our time here a little bit. So, the thing is that each exploration in Mana Bond becomes worse as you draw more of them, right? So the first exploration or Mana Bond is absolutely insane, but when you draw a second of either, they have huge diminishing returns. So that's part of the reason why you don't see, like, 4 exploration, 2 Mana Bonds or something like that, right? Most of the Oko versions are not going to be playing Mana Bond, due to the fact that you have to discard your hand and you have cards that you actually want to keep for the late game. But exploration is pretty bad in multiples. The second isn't the worst, because you can play all 3 of the cards that you get back from a Life from the Loam. But, like, the third is borderline dead. And once you have an exploration, or once you played a turn or 2 of Magic, the Mana Bond is maybe not the greatest thing in the world either. My current thought on red-green lands is that I'm having to really work to keep up. I don't feel like I'm doing anything broken here. So we played against a fair creature deck that, in theory, things like Punishing Fire and Molten Vortex should be good against, but we just did not have time to implement those things at all. And then we played against a fast combo deck that I just didn't have game against. I'll keep this hand. We're probably just doing a turn 1 gamble for either an exploration or a Dark Depths. That's not amazing. All right. So, the first thing we're going to do is cast this gamble. And if this gamble resolves, I'll do some talking and thinking. If it doesn't resolve, I don't need to think. Okay. So I have 2 options. Number 1 is to just get the depths and have the combo naturally assembled. Number 2 is to just get the exploration, because Life from the Loam can already find me depths eventually. And the combination of like Loam plus library plus the stuff that I have already is going to be very powerful. And the decision entirely hinges on whether or not I think my opponent is playing combo or control. If I think they're playing control, then the mana bond, or sorry, not the mana bond, the exploration is probably going to be better. So we're going to do the old MTG Goldfish. Wiki. No results. I don't get any help. Accordingly, I'm going to get exploration and hope that my opponent is playing fair. If they are just like playing breach, then I've made the wrong decision. All right, cool. So we're going to start with Grove, cast the exploration. Oh my gosh, it resolved. That's cool. So now it's interesting. Do I play Library or Loam? Loam makes me more likely to make multiple land drops next turn, but Library is like Library. I think I'm supposed to cast the Loam. I've already played my extra land drop. That's the plan. We haven't done such a good job of it yet. 2020 in 2020. Don't breach me. Alright, they didn't breach me. Alright, get in here. Unfortunately, we've drawn the side of the combo that I don't really want to draw. I can gamble 4 depths and potentially put it into play this turn if I don't discard the Life from the Loam, but if I do discard the Life from the Loam, I can just still in Library. So get in here! The other thing I can do is actually just get a Wasteland, which I don't hate. Against that Tundra, it is potentially indicative of something I don't like. Yeah. That Tabernacle is real good at going to the graveyard, and I just want to say that I respect the Tabernacle. Force my opponent to use their potential Brainstorm mana there. Go to second main, cast this Loam, get back Waste. You know, honestly, I'm almost tempted to get back the Tabernacle since it's been such a good boy tonight, but we're going to go with Waste Stage Port here. Non-traditional decision, I know, but... Alright, and everything just works. So we'll play out the Wasteland since the port on its own doesn't really do anything. Alright, that is what I did not want to see. My opponent is playing Breach. I do not have Bojuka Bog available right now. Alright, so my opponent is the Spell Pierce and 3-drop version of the deck. I am deterministically dead to a Breach. Okay, I can't do anything with Wasteland anyway, but thank you. Alright, so this again. If you weren't here for round 1, we've already decided that we kind of suck in this matchup. But we'll see what we can do. Alright, so I definitely don't want Maze of Ith. I could probably cut at least one other mana-producing land. Like before, I'm probably going to keep the Tabernacle. Like before, I'm going to cut the Mana Bond since I'm bringing in these non-land cards. And the Punishing Fires and Molten Vortex aren't particularly good either. So then I should be thinking about some combination of Choke and Force of Vigor. One of the issues is that my opponent has, like, Plains, Mountain, Island as basics that are fetchable to play around my Wastelands already. And so if they're already playing those, then, like, the Choke is kind of eh. Oh, I forgot the Reclaimers. I brought the Reclaimers in before, because they give me access to Bob. Alright, that's right. I decided that tapping out for Library was a little dicey. So I can bring in 3 in combination of Choke and Force of Vigor. Because Monastery Mentor is one of the primary post-sideboard plans for that deck, so I want to decrease their ability to go wide. I think Force of Vigor and Choke are both kind of medium. I'm going to play the Force of Vigor. It's free interaction. This is a weird hand. It's turn 1, create 2 1/2s while having no lands in play, and having Mindbreak Trap as backup. And just being 1 land in graveyard away from a super fast clock. Alternatively, it's play out 1 Reclaimer and stage and hold up the ability to bog. I'm going to keep this one, but I think it's super sketch. I'm keeping this one for science. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to hope to spike a fetch land or anything that can put a land into my graveyard and just say, I have 6 power on turn 2, deal with it. I think I quite like that when I have Mindbreak Trap. I didn't do the math on how many hits I actually have to make that happen. Oh, just Force of Will the second one. Okay. The reason I'm okay with doing this is because basically, you jerk, is because basically any of my remaining 33-ish lands gives me access to Bojuka Bog. Alright. I'm gonna pass the turn. 1 land away from hard casting Mindbreak Trap. One top, 1 bottom. Not just dead, which is appreciated. Alright. Now things are interesting. I think I need to tap the land. And I think I tap the one that silences. So that they can't, like, cantrip into it. But alternatively, shutting them off of main phase blue mana for Ponders and Preordains might be pretty good, and they could just silence in response if they already have the rest of the combo. Yeah, alright, let's do it this way. Because this would mean they would need, like, Land, Petal, Breach, Silence to beat me. Alright. We'll do this the good old-fashioned way that involves tapping infinite numbers of lands. Because now I can just Thespian Stage a port. I'm still going to need pressure. But maybe we live. So, on the note of Breach, let me say that I think Breach is very good and one of the absolute best things that you can do in Legacy. It is probably going to get itself banned at some point. I don't think we're there yet. But we probably will get there. A lot of what you're seeing tonight is really exacerbated by the fact that I am not. Ooh. That's an annoyance. Alright. By the fact that this deck has basically no interaction for Breach. And I don't think you can play a deck in Legacy right now that is just bad against Breach. Like, I just don't think that's viable. We got so many ports. Get out red mana. I was thinking about using my Mox Diamonds to, like, turn the Thespian Stage into a Wasteland or something like that. But I figured this was a perfectly good use of my Mox mana. I'm still just going to port you again here. If you have the Brain Freeze right here and you cast it targeting yourself. Maybe I don't die this turn. Dryad Militant isn't crazy. It just, like, happens to be so bad versus a huge portion of the format, right? So, like, against most decks, it's not acceptable for you to be playing a 2-1 for most mana. And I think that since D&T already has the X1 problem, I don't know that you can take it any further. That's interesting. I'm still just going to double port my opponent in the upkeep. So I don't think it's necessarily worth taking their mana between phases here, because of the value that this deck can get at 1 mana. So, for example, if I were to let them go to their draw step and they got a little bit deeper and they got to, like, say, an Auram's Chant or something like that, I would not want them to be able to cast it then, right? So just make them have it all right here. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever played with Jotun Grunt, but card's rough. It dies to itself very frequently. And soft graveyard hate is not actually very good against Breach. You really need hard graveyard hate to do what you want to do. I have colored mana, so that's cool. Oh, I remember. I was around in those days. I own my copies of Jotun Grunt. So, just sort of brief history lesson. Jotun Grunt used to be one of the primary beaters of choice before we got better options like Mirren Crusader, Brimaz, things of that overall nature. But then we received Rest in Peace as a hate card during Innistrad block. And Jotun Grunt does not play well with Rest in Peace. And Rest in Peace was just like the most powerful hate card that had been printed at the time. Oh wait, do I have that right? Was Rest in Peace Innistrad block? I feel like I'm either right or close to right. RTR. Oh, sorry, it was RTR. And then Innistrad block, we got Grafdigger's Cage. So in that, like, 2-year-ish span, we got, like, some of the most powerful graveyard hate that had ever been printed. And it really became less profitable to be playing something like Jotun Grunt in your deck when there were better grave hate options. That's interesting. So I have things with 3 different names. I can change it into 4 via Rishadan Port. This also may be the turn where I stop trying to choke my opponent's mana via Rishadan Port and just say, like, hey, I'm going to tick up my Blast Zone this turn and have a hard answer to your stuff available. Can you beat that? But that might not be safe. Nothing's safe. But, like, they already have the mana available to hardcast a Breach and potentially go off. I guess next turn I gain the ability to triple Rishadan Port. So that's worth something. But I'm not going anywhere. Like, I have no pressure. My opponent's life total is not under duress. So that's spell 1. Breach will be spell 2. Don't chant me. Because I just lose if they chant me here. Thank you. Okay, so my opponent has 1 blue floating, but Lion's Eye Diamond. Yeah, so I can't actually do anything about that. So, like, I could exile this, but then they just continue to go off. Oh man, are you just casting the... Do you have a freeze in there? You do have a freeze in there. Cast it. Cast it. Cast it. Alright, so we have lost through our combo hate card that was specifically for this matchup. GG. And they have the LED Brain Freeze and enough cards in the graveyard to just go off naturally. Alright. You heard it here, folks. I do not think red-green lands is a viable deck in this metagame. We're so soft to Breach. So very soft to Breach. And Breach is the best deck of the format. Just full stop. I don't think there is any disagreement there. There are decks that you can play that are potentially good against Breach, but they might not be like as viable against the metagame as a whole, or might have other problems. So, you know, I'm happy to be playing like a donation deck list tonight, and I'm totally fine with playing lands. But as you've seen, I haven't felt like I've had game in any of the 3 matches so far. I mean, you could fill your sideboard with things for that matchup, but you'd lose out a lot elsewhere, right? But I haven't had very many successful games of Magic tonight thus far. I played against Maverick, where you would expect that the Punishing Fire and Vortexes would be really good, and that the Life from the Loam would prevent you from wastelanding out. But we got oofed out of the game instead, and we didn't have time to set up multi-Vortex, Punishing Fire, and Loam, very specifically because Dryad Militant host us, which is a card that's in Maverick to beat Depths. Yeah, so I think a lot of people who aren't playing a lot of Legacy don't realize how much hate that Breach can actually beat. So, for example, you can have Leyline and Chalice, but then a single Wear Tear or Serenity answers both of those cards, right? Or you can have something like a Mindbreak Trap or a Surgical Extraction that your opponent can just play around and beat. So you need to interact early and often with Breach if you want to win. And this is part of the reason why you're starting to see like more Spell Pierce Delver decks as opposed to other various versions of Delver. I don't have colored mana, and I don't have the combo. I'm gonna go ahead and ship this one. Was Wiki the Maverick person or the other Breach person? How do I see what? Where are we at? No, not drop from league. I just want to see my matches. Good interface is good. Either way, I'm mulliganing this hand. Chat, does anyone remember whether Wiki was playing Breach or Maverick? Because that influences my scry decision pretty severely. You think Breach. Alright, so if it was Breach, I just toss back the Punishing Fire. Breach. Oh, did we just double up immediately? Things that I don't use mental energy on while streaming. Number 1, remembering which opponents were playing what deck. That's a big one. Do not think about that. That's not an imperative, not a command. Like, don't do that, but, like, I do not do that. I could have considered the YOLO Wasteland off-crop rotation there, but I don't think it's good. I'd like to crop rotation away some of these Dark Depths if I have to crop rotation, since I have a whopping 3 of them in hand. Oh boy, that's awkward. So I can play the exploration and then play 2 land, but I can't actually combo off this turn. Or I can play exploration, play stage depths, and then next turn go off and hold up crop rotation. So I do think it is better to play the exploration this turn, but I might just die. I think I need to take a bit of a risk here. Feels bad. So I'm probably dead to Breach Petal Brain Freeze. Sorry, Breach Underworld Brain Freeze. Should definitely die to that, and will probably die to Lotus Petal, depending on what else my opponent has. Okay, not dead. Not dead is good. I can work with that. That's interesting. I wish I had an Ancient Tomb to crop rotation for, so I could just combo this turn. If I Wasteland, I don't produce Merit Lodge for 2 more turns. Whereas if I... Sorry, if I do Wasteland, I need 2 more land drops to Merit Lodge. Whereas if I don't Wasteland, I can just Crop Rot for Bog. The Wasteland isn't super impactful on my opponent. So I think I'm just going to play a Dark Depths and pass. White Enlightened Tutor. Predict. Predict. Alright. Oh god, that's so good. They milled Savine's Reclamation there. So that's potential value later, but I can't just fire off this Bojuka Bog yet. Because if I just fire off the Bojuka Bog and nuke that graveyard, I can still just be dead to, like, Breach LED Brain Freeze. Like always. Lomer Boy, I agree. I think you are supposed to play a Leyline Chalice Karn deck if you want to be beating Breach. So Red Prison, some sort of like Eldrazi Post deck that's playing Karn. I think those are the sorts of things you want to be looking for. Yeah. So like, this is part of the reason why I'm playing Red Prison with Habibi this weekend instead of playing D&T on stream. Let me mute that. I have some fun projects in the works that I'm very excited to announce. Hopefully beginning of next week. That was a message about one of those things. Also on the list of Chalice decks that I think are good, 4-color Loam. 4-color Loam also plays Chalice Leyline, while also having Oko and a bunch of other just very high caliber cards that do weird situational things that I think's pretty darn good. Breach, Post, Loam, Grixis, Delver. So I have complicated feelings on whether or not I think Grixis Delver or Blue-Red Delver is better. I think Grixis Delver is better versus Breach, but I've always been told that like Blue-Red Delver is the Delver deck that you often want to be playing in the mirror, just because you have more direct damage to go to the face and more things that function as removal spells for opposing Delvers. So I've been hearing a lot of people say that they like Blue-Red Delver because it's giving you the leg up against the other Delver decks. But I'm also hearing Breach players saying that they're a little bit afraid of... Alright. Alright, there's the Underworld Breach. I can bog in response to this, but it doesn't really stop a kill if my opponent just has Brain Freeze, so I let them continue. Okay, so they don't have white mana to work with. So it might mise a win here. If they had floated some white mana first, I'd be in trouble. So they still have enough cards in hand that they would be able to escape the Brain Freeze, so I need to let that go there. They'll crack an LED for blue, in all likelihood, and then I can Crop Rot. Okay, this is a great opportunity, unless they have another Brain Freeze in hand, in which case they just totally get me. But yeah, so like they could just Brain Freeze, target themselves in response, but the Brain Freeze would go back to the graveyard along with any cards, and I can play around Spell Pierce currently. We'll junk the Dark Depth since we have two more. All right, GG. All right, let's board for Breach again. It's not gonna matter. We're still gonna die. You want to try Choke this time? Let's try Choke this time just to be different. All right. So we go Punishing Fire out, Morton Voltex out, Mana Bond out, Maze of Ith out, Tabernacle we kept in. I think we boarded Caracas out. And the Library's out because I was afraid of tapping out for that. Note, I'm not trying to put on a showcase about how good Breach is. Breach is very good. But again, we have far less interaction than the average Magic deck against this deck. Red-green lands is not looking to beat combo decks like Breach. Like, let's just take some other random card, what random deck that's in this queue here. I don't have... Alright, let's just take some random deck like Maverick. That's fine. So, like, if we look at Maverick's sideboard here, I'll scoot these things over. This is something that Lomer Boy donated for. This is currently in the queue. So if you look at this deck has... Not Jittes. This deck has 9 cards in the sideboard that are basically specifically for this matchup, plus a Dryad Militant, an Oof, to a lesser extent, Scavenging Ooze, Thalia in the main deck here. So there's 19 cards that are impactful in this matchup. And that's a little bit better than the count that we are looking at here. Well, it's a lot better. Let's be real. All right, I have no colored mana again, so even though I have the Mindbreak Trap, this needs to go back. What have I done to deserve this? So this hand's very bad. In that I have 1 mana source. I can't gamble from Life from the Loam and actually cast my cards. I can't cast this hate card, and I don't have the mana to activate this. The only thing that this has going for it is that it has 6 cards in it. So this opener is bad. This one has to go back. I don't think there's any two ways about it. Otherwise, like, turn 2, we're just crop rotationing away the Dark Depths to get a mana source, then gambling twice. Well, does that get us anywhere? That's such a hemorrhaging of resources just to make a 3/4. No. Let's try to find like a sphere or something. Okay. So this is 5 cards. Keep. Pitch 1 Mox Diamond. And the other Mox Diamond. Spike any land on turn 2 to play Sphere. And maybe get there. Have a high density of hate cards. Or alternatively, like, don't... Alright. This hand's bad too. All my hands are bad. That is the theme of this deck. Did not sign up to play Breach in 3 of my first 4 rounds tonight. Where's my Tix refund? I just want to like play against some honest to goodness Delver or something. At least I have 2 pieces of interaction available to me. Red Hot, abysmal. Absolutely horrendous. Like, does not seem reasonably winnable. It's not a deck that lands is trying to beat. Like, when you're playing lands, you want to play against... Man, that Spell Pierce, they've had it, like, every time. You want to be playing against, like, slow, dirtily control decks and decks with lots of little creatures that can't, like, particularly pressure you hard, so you have time for your Punishing Fires, Loams, Molten Vortexes to do their thing. But, I've had very little agency tonight in my matches. I'm gonna have to think of a good name for the YouTube VOD. It might be something like, a lesson why not to play red-green lands in the current meta. 2. 3 spells. Exile any number of target spells. You are a target spell. I have exiled you. Nice! That was definitely something the opponent could have played around. They didn't need to turbo that Mentor out, in my opinion. I think they could have waited a turn to play around the Mindbreak traps, the thing that I have, because we've played previously. 2 spells? Who plays around the second Mindbreak trap? I'm not going to play this exploration because I'm just drawing one land a turn right now anyway. Well, you didn't cast spells first this time, so that's pretty good. That's going to resolve. I can crop rotation if I want, but I could do that just as easily on my turn. So I think what I'm actually going to do is just copy a land that has a different name from these in case Field of the Dead ends up becoming relevant in like the really, really, really late game. This also just gives me red mana for my spells. Yeah, Crop Rot for Tabernacle is probably what's going to happen. God, these explorations are not what I want right now. The Tabernacle's also not, like, super good this turn. So... the Tabernacle's better on the following turn. And I've boarded out my primary answers to Mentor. I'm not expecting to have hands like this with lands. I think we're just gonna give it the old passeroo. No, Emrakul doesn't beat that deck. So they're always going to have something ranging from Thassa's Oracle to... Thassa's Oracle to Lightning Bolt to Grape Shot to kill you with. So even if you can't be killed by Mill, they will kill you a different way. If only we had another volcanic island. My opponent is also not just like hemorrhaging cards so that going super wide with Mentor is playing into my Tabernacle. So that also is unfortunate for me. My current plan is to just like spike a land, Crop Rot for 2020 land and hope we get there. Red Hot, I agree. I think Silence does very little to me. I think I'm playing towards an Emrakul win. Or not an Emrakul win, Merit Lodge win here. So I'm just going to let the Orm's Chant resolve instead of Crop Rotting in response to it. Land, yes, thank you. So my hope is that my opponent casts a few spells during their turn, but doesn't lethal me. So that I can use Mindbreak Trap as an actual counterspell on my end step and beat Swords to Plowshares. So, like, I would like my opponent to cast exactly one more cantrip. This is the plan. Son of a gun. I forgot about that side of the equation there. So I was supposed to Crop Rot for Merit Lot for the Dark Depths in response to the Silence on my turn. So I effed up. All right, I'll own that mistake. So I'm so not used to that first line of text on Teferi, because I'm usually playing like Chalice Thalia decks where that first part is not at all relevant to what I am doing. So I will own up to my mistake. So our library would have been shuffled. We wouldn't have drawn the Taiga. We would have had a chance at drawing some other land. And we still would have died. So we are taking 10. If my opponent had a couple more cantrips beyond this Brainstorm, we still maybe die that turn anyway, even if we make the Merit Lodge. And we can't make the Merit Lodge to block, otherwise the Teferi bounces it. So I don't think we're getting there anyway. But I definitely made a bad mistake there. All right, I'm going to take a minute and run to the restroom. I will be right back, folks. All right, let's do it. Hey folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here. We are playing red-green lands tonight, and we are 0-4 tonight. That is a rarity for this stream. Usually we put some W's up on the board, but we have gotten paired against Breach 3 times tonight, and this matchup's very difficult. We don't have a ton of interaction. So let's talk some generic stream stuff for a minute. I'm going to pull something up. I think it's this. Yeah. So we're going to get kind of weird here, probably with a couple, like, multiple layers here for a second. So on Sunday, I am going to be streaming with Habibi MTG. So that's twitch.tv/HabibiMTG. If you want to get notifications of when that stream goes live, click on her channel at some point and whack that follow button. I'm sure she would appreciate it. I'm going to be playing Red Prison with her, because I think Karn, Chalice, and Leyline are excellent ways of attacking the Breach Menace right now. That's why I'm not playing Death and Taxes with her, even though that was the original plan. And if we get paired against Wiki again, I don't know what I'm going to do. All right. We did not. Yeah. Let's keep this hand. I feel like I recognize my opponent's name from, like, D&T somewhere or other. Yes, twitch.tv/HabibiMTG. So she's doing a series that I think she calls, like, Eternal Frenemies, where she's playing the Legacy with a whole bunch of the various Legacy Masters of the format, who are usually strongly associated with one archetype or another. And I volunteered to do either Red Prison or D&T. I know Strifo was recently featured as well. Best friend Tabitha, thank you very much for your support as well. It is very much appreciated. Enjoy your emotes. And for those of you who weren't here last stream, the fill emote is currently live as well. I don't think I want to show the wasteland this turn, so I'm just going to play a stage out. The Chalice of the Void, what's the word? Emote has been commissioned as well, so that is coming probably sometime in about the next month. I'm pretty happy with the little fail emote. It looks better when it's a touch bigger. Cabal Therapy me. I have no fear. What do you do? Name life from the loam? You name crop rotation. Well, that's pretty good. That would be my name as well. Ooh. Ooh. No targets, don't care. So yeah, it's like a legitimately good question what my opponent is playing off of Polluted Delta specifically. What if it's Pox? What if it's Pox and that's just a fetch for some sort of fatal push reason? But Phil, why would it play Cabal Therapy? Shh, let me dream. Let me have fun in this last round. Oh man, that's another swamp. Aww. Aww. That's less fun. But on the other hand, a Bojuka Bog would be kind of sweet. Tabernacle? Hold up. Is Tabernacle good? Tabernacle's weird. You know, Tabby's real weird against, frickin' Bridge from Below. How's this league going? It's a great question. Good question. Yeah, great question. We're 0-4 right now because we keep getting paired against Breach. Alright. We're taking all three of those cards from the graveyard. I'm going to play out the Knackle, and I'm going to play the Caracas for Hogak reasons. Then I'm going to pass the turn. We'll let it go to their upkeep. They can decide whether or not they want to keep this thing alive. They have decided. Oh, well, welcome. So, have you caught some of my content on YouTube before, or are you brand new here? Just out of my curiosity. I always like to know when I'm hitting new viewers who haven't gotten a chance to catch me live before. But that tends to happen more on the Saturday streams than the weeknight streams. Oh, well, awesome. Welcome. I'm usually playing Legacy 3 days a week. Got a good amount of the YouTube content as well. Didn't really want to hit the fetches there. This Wasteland is okay. Like, it's obviously good enough that I'm going to cast it. I think I want to play the Verdant and stop giving my opponent life. Although it's possible I should just play Maze and redeploy Wasteland. I guess I can do both. I don't have to redeploy the Wasteland immediately. So let's just start taking some of the fetchables out of my deck before I lose too many of them. We'll loam back 3 things. Oh, well, happy birthday, Red Hot. Glad to be a part of that. It's interesting that I probably don't have to report them this turn. They're probably going to pay for both of their creatures. I definitely respect the birthday of, I am just going to hang out, you know. I don't know how old you are, but if you're old enough, like, have a drink and just, like, play some video games, watch a stream, just hang out and, like, just do the stuff that you enjoy. I totally respect those sorts of days. Ghost Quarter would be a pretty sick rip. Start destroying some swamps. Alright, what am I copying with my stage? I don't think it needs to be the Maze of Ith yet. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 different names right now, so I'm already good to go for Field of the Dead. Oh, wait, hold up. I can't. No, this is fine. This is fine. Because, like, I'll play Field of the Dead and get another card with a different name. So, like, it's okay. Copy the Tabby. The Legendary Land. So we'll just play 2 live cards here. And pass the turn. The reason why I'm continuing to get more cards to my hand, instead of just leaving some of them there in the graveyard, is because I do have a Molten Vortex in this deck. Yeah, I think it would be cool. Field of the Dead would be cool. Bojuka Bog is interesting. Oh, I forgot to maze. Whatever. Maybe my opponent will think I'm up to something. I guess I can turn it into another maze now, since I'm just, like, swimming in mana. Bog, Wasteland. Alright, so I can Wasteland plus Bog every turn for the rest of the game. So that's something cool that can occur. So we start getting marginal value here. Alright. So I feel like we have this one pretty locked up now. Like, I have access to Sorcery Speed Bog every turn by Wastelanding myself and redeploying Bog. So my opponent's graveyard can't get too out of control. I have Tabernacle, so they can't go wide of me. I have 2 Maze of Iths. So individual large creatures aren't a problem. I also have Karakas for Hogak. I guess I can lose to just getting comboed off. Like, Altar of Dementia, Hogak shenanigans can still potentially get there. Mega Jazz, thank you very much for following. Hope you're enjoying. Despite the fact that we're getting totally bullied tonight. Oop, I need to click here. know, there are some weird corner case scenarios where I could like actually consider just taking 2 damage there to not untap 2 black creatures for Hogak reasons. Alright, so here's how my combo works. Number 1, float a black mana. Number 2, wasteland my Bojuka Bog. Number 3, use the black mana and 1 other mana to return wasteland, Bojuka Bog, and how about this thicket? Playing black and a colorless. The next step here is we're going to just cycle a land, see what happens. Dredge a Loam. Hey, there's a stage. Guess that's cool. Play a Bog. Bog you. Play a second land for turn. We'll play another Wasteland. We'll Wasteland you. Alright. So life's good. I'm having fun. I don't know that my opponent is having fun. That part is less clear. In terms of proper sequencing, I also should have done my wastelanding prior to my bogging. That was a little loose on my end. This is what fun looks like. This is fun. Thank you for not the equip. Thank you for the bits, sword equip. Very much appreciated. Things have been going really great for the channel recently. The support means a lot. Yeah, this is the first time I've gotten to have fun with my food for night. Since I have 1 loam in hand, I kind of just want to take another draw, because like something like a crop rotation can just end the game. That less so. I don't need to bog this turn. So let's get a waste to stage a thicket. Play some mana. Cycle this. I think I'm just going to take a natural draw again. Ghost Quarter. How many basics you have, friend? Just curious. Asking for a me. Oh no. Oh no. This is pod racing. Opponent is a trooper over here. So now they can sacrifice their imp to their carrion feeder. Nope. Keeping the imp. Now you're thinking with quarters. Yeah, that's better than pod racing. I should have gone with that. You know what? We're going to copy a Taiga. So what are we going to do, you ask? Well, we're going to get Ghost Quarter, Tranquil Thicket, and we're going to click on 1 other random card in our graveyard. Alright, following me so far? And we're going to take this Ghost Quarter, and we're going to shove it way up in our opponent's swamp. Yeah, field would be pretty cool. Just take a natural draw. Field of the Dead! Nice. So I've already played my lands per turn, so we'll pass. Oh man, opponent, I was going to make so many zombies. I was going to get to copy my Field of the Dead twice, and then like wasteland my own tabernacle away. Like, it was going to get cool. Turbojet Mega Christ, thank you very much for the continued support, by the way. I thought you already resubbed earlier today. Did that message just randomly display again for me? Yeah, whatever. Regardless, thank you for the support. All right, so what do we have versus Hogak? Elvish Reclaimer for Bog seems good, and also for Caracas. Sphere is medium. Force of Vigor is medium. I don't know that I'll actually play either of those things. I don't really feel like most of my cards are bad. So I don't know that I really need to sideboard much. Like, this is much more the sort of deck that I would like to play against, where, like, I have real game against what they're doing. I think Hogak ley lines. That's a good point. So, like, I'm definitely boarding out a Mana Bond. And, like, maybe I don't want, like, this. So I could play, like, one of those guys. I think I'm supposed to shave a Gamble or a Punishing Fire and play a second one of these if I want to have a decent number of answers to Leyline. The Punishing Fires / Molten Vortex are going to range from being insane to awkward, depending on what exactly my opponent's board looks like. I'm kind of more inclined to trim this. Because the first activation of this requires red-red, which is hard in the early game. So it's much easier to get red colorless on turn 2 and treat this as a removal spell than it is to get red-red on turn 2. Let's try this. I should have looked a little harder to see if there were any lands that I wanted to trim. Most of the lands that we usually end up trimming are creature-based lands. This one I'll keep. So we have a crop rotation for a Bog, and we have the ability to deal with Hogak. Wow, fine and Andy, thank you very much for that support, as always. Like, very much appreciated. To those of you who were just gifted a sub, like, enjoy your emotes. And I hope you're enjoying the content. Oh my gosh, there's this hype train going. This is new. Sub, gift, or use bits to get to the next level. Alright, it is a literal hype train that has started. This is new for the channel. Completing level 2 requires combined support totaling 4 tier 1 subs or 1800 bits. Available rewards. You can earn 1 emote per train by subbing, gifting, or using 100 bits total during the event. Exclusive emotes are given out at the end of the hype train and will be available to use until they are refreshed with a new emote theme. Oh, well that's pretty cool. No, don't need customer support. I understand what's happening. Alright. Sorry, I have to get myself back in the mindset here. My opponent has a Gravecrawler that they can hardcast from the graveyard. I don't know that that's worth just blowing my crop rotation on right now. I'd rather wait a little bit longer. So I think I'm just going to play out Grove and pass. And if they cast the Gravecrawler, they cast the Gravecrawler. Sword equipped with more bits. Very much appreciated. Now I'm getting more scared. Because there's a Vengevine there. And so just land plus Gravecrawler potentially returns a Vengevine. That I can't really let get in play. So I will Bog here. But bogging here takes me off of my green, which is scary. The other problem about bogging here is that my opponent still has Carrion Feeder plus Stitcher Supplier, so they can still potentially do something degenerate, like maybe even produce a Hogak this turn. So I definitely think I am not favored from current board. Shoop, thank you very much for your support as well. And I know you subbed last time around too. Again, very much appreciated. You can expect a new article coming out next week as thanks for the support. There's Hogak. Yeah, that's what I was playing towards, good guy. I'm not sure that we're gonna get there. Like, I'll be able to Caracas bounce the Hogak. But bad things can happen this turn. My opponent can just, like, Faithless Looting, Flashback. Oh, nope, they're just going for another Bayou. Ew. The good news is I'm not really scared of Altar of Dementia. The bad news is many other things about this situation. We're going to play the Caracas out and pass the turn. We don't need to bounce the Hogak immediately, because bouncing it just kind of gives them the chance to redeploy it. I'll do it mid-combat. But if they were, for example, to not attack with the Hogak, I could just use the turn to copy the Bayou with Thespian Stage instead. And there goes a bridge into the graveyard, and things are getting spooky. Fine and Andy, thank you very much for the continued support once again. And some bits. The hype train has leveled up. Much like my opponent's carrion feeder. Unlike the carrion feeder, though, the hype train is good for me. Alright, we have green mana. That is the good news. Hype! And some big, like, screamy faces. So I've got this Life from the Loam that I can cast and not super do anything with. So I guess I'm casting it and taking the Grove, tapping Bayou, because it'll let me play towards hard casting Force, double casting Life from the Loams, and it lets me dig deeper towards the combination of Wasteland plus Tabernacle, which is one of my best ways through the current situation. Yeah, Force of Vigor is not feeling great. I think we boarded 2 in, though, right? Like, we have exactly 2 of them, and we've just drawn both along with Life from the Loams when we were on the draw. So I'm taking 6, 7, 8, 9 damage this turn. Potentially a... is that lethal? I think that's lethal, because each Gravecrawler represents 2 more damage on the Carrion Feeder. One for the Gravecrawler, 1 for a Bridge from Below token. So it's just 2, 4, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 damage. Yes, that lethals me. I'm going to see if my opponent sees it. They have seen the line. Alright. Rough. Let's try again. Alright. So. Do I want to board out the Force of Vigor since they were so bad that match? And then be much, much, much softer to a Leyline? Unclear. Like, this also does hit Altar of Dementia, which represents a very real, very fast kill, even if my opponent can't truly combo off just because of how much self-mill I have. An anonymous cheerer for 1,000 spooky ghost bits. That's pretty crazy, and one of the larger donations we've had on the channel in terms of bits recently. Very much appreciated. Or wait, that's actually 1,500, because there's 5 little ghosts afterwards. That's even more impressive. Thank you very much. Hype train should just be called, like, the love train. Because that's what I'm feeling. In my heart. My cold, dead legacy heart that is frozen after playing against Breach for 3 of my 5 rounds. That's gonna be a pass from me, dog. Let's try again. Ah. His hand does nothing. It has no loam, no gamble, no access to graveyard hate, 1 redraw, no ability to answer Hogak. Alright. This hand is more interesting, but the mulligan decision is very difficult. Like, we whack the keep button, but then what are we doing with the throwing back? We need to keep at least 2 lands, exploration, and loam. I think it's actually correct to pitch the Punishing Fire. And probably the Wasteland. Maybe it's the Ghost Quarter. Like, it really depends on what my opponent opens up with. So if they open up with fetching mono basics, having access to the Ghost Quarter is insane. But if they open up like last game where they just have like triple Bayou, then the Wasteland is nuts. So I'm throwing this back. And then I think the Ghost Quarter. The Ghost Quarter is interesting though because I can Ghost Quarter myself to put extra lands in graveyard that I can get back with Life from the Loam. Boy, that's hard. I've chosen not to play around Leyline this game by boarding out the Force of Vigors that I boarded in previously. Son of a... That's justice. That's justice right there. Oh, so real talk. Now this is a tapped land. We're not cycling this. We are just going to play that out and hope that we make enough land drops to either naturally Merit Lodge or produce Field of the Dead and combo off with. I have one way to deal with that. It's a Blast Zone. Well, it's the Ghost Quarter anyway. That's not quite good yet. And it may never be good. So the bits are worth approximately $1, right? So like 100 bits equals $1. And I get a percentage of the bits. So Twitch takes a cut of that. I don't know what the exact percent is off the top of my head. So now I know that Ghost Quarter is strip mine because they failed the search previous... Oh god, it's just Hogak already? Just Hogak already. Okay. Well, life's scary. I'm taking 10 next turn. Oh, I get all the bits. Oh, but it's a little bit more than 1 cent to Twitch. I see. That's where their cut is at. Okay. That makes sense. So I think I can't Ghost Quarter them. And I have to play towards having as much mana available to leave my mana open for things that involve crop rotation. Because crop rotation, Ghost Quarter, Caracas, these sorts of things in tandem might be able to steal me a win. I forgot to scream Yu-Gi-Oh! Or something like that. So really, this was a misplay on my end. So, considering that we're dead on board, I'm going to Wasteland myself. Opponent, give me priority. I am looking to destroy my permanents. Alright, there we go. There we go. No search. Pass the turn. Make a statement. Now, if opponent was a real baller, they'd just F6 through their whole turn. What is this tech? Trying to give you the chance for the flawless victory. Unfortunately, we were left with one permanent in play, so opponent did not get the flawless. Alright. We 0-5'd on stream, and not for lack of trying. So we took 3 losses to Breach, 1 loss to Green Black Maverick, and 1 loss to Hogak. I think variance was on the wrong side for us in that last match. But the other ones, like, we fought tooth and nail, and what we were doing was just not good enough. So Kia, I do appreciate the donation to make this league possible, but sorry, friend. Red-green lands is not feeling good. We didn't have enough tools at our disposal to fight off the Breach menace, and we took some splash damage from Breach. In both of the non-Breach rounds that we played, we did lose to Graveyard Hate cards. We lost to the main deck 2-1 that shuts off graveyards. Dryad Militant out of Maverick, which really hosed our Life from the Loam-based hand. Yes, very, very weird games. So you might go back and watch them later, but I had Force of Vigors in for Game 2, and then for Game 3 I was like, I didn't see it Game 2, I had 2 of them stuck in my hand, and I died, I'm gonna board them out, and board in my libraries instead. And then you leylined me on my Moldified Life from the Loam hand. It was rough. And then we got hosed by Leyline in Game 3 versus Hogak. I do think we had good game against that deck, as we saw when I clearly took over what was that, the Game 1 scenario, and had a relatively hard lock. So despite the fact that I made some errors there, like forgetting the Maze of Ith, 1 attacker 1 turn while I was talking, I feel like that matchup was okay, but I should have kept some Force of Vigors in. You had 0 Leyline Game 2, 2 Game 3. Well, we dodged that in the wrong direction. I see. So, let's talk about some sideboard options. So, one of the first things that I think of as being missing from this deck is that I usually see Tireless Trackers in these decks, but it's not here. So, maybe this hate that's going towards either generic blue decks or towards Breach in particular is pushing out some of the generic cards. So, like, maybe the Elvish Reclaimers that might have been a flex option before, or might have been main deck in other versions of the build, are taking spots that might have belonged to Tireless Tracker. And I did definitely miss having Tracker. So Tracker is another one of those things, kind of like Field of the Dead, where if your opponent has hard graveyard hate, you can still win the game through it. So, if And big if I was going to play red-green lands again, I would try to completely reevaluate the sideboard and try to do something to put the Breach matchup more in reach. I still don't think it's going to be good if you're going to play a configuration like this one. So, like, if you were trying to make it better in Game 1 scenarios, you'd want more things like Elvish Reclaimer. But given that you're a land-based deck, and Bojuka Bog is the best land that you can basically have versus Breach, you know, it's questionable when you can't really use most of these slots to deal with Breach. So this is just not a deck that I would probably recommend in this metagame. So if you're playing red-green lands, I would take a long sit down, preferably with like a lands chat, a lands Discord, a couple other lands players, something like that, and figure out how am I going to approach the metagame with this deck. Because the tools that I have here don't feel good enough. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed tonight. If you aren't already following, please follow. I'm usually streaming 3 days a week. But again, note, no Saturday morning stream. Instead, we're doing a Sunday stream with Habibi MTG. I've thrown that name in chat for you there, twitch.tv/HabibiMTG. So I will be streaming Red Prison with her Sunday at approximately 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope some of you will join. She's been doing a good job at trying to promote Legacy and learn the format by playing with a bunch of masters. So hopefully you'll come watch me, Chalice, and Karn, and Leyline, some horrible, awful Breach players. So I'm going to turn you over to D'Amato EXP, who is just starting some content production, and I want to give him a few viewers. So, folks, I hope you enjoy the rest of tonight, and you can expect an article from me next week. And thank you very much for doing enough subs and such tonight to really make my time worth it. It was very much appreciated. Cheers, folks. Now, /raid, DAMATOEXP. This channel is intended for mature audiences. I'm a mature audience, so that's excellent. Bye-bye.